All right, boom, 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 boom. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great morning, great morning, great morning, great afternoon. I know we've got people that are joining us literally from across the planet. We're actually live streaming to YouTube as well today. So for everyone that's on YouTube, make sure you leave a comment. Let us know if you can hear this conversation. Let us know what you think of our conversation. Let us know what you think of today's guest. We've got an amazing guest that's coming up in just a moment. Yesterday, I was asked to be a guest speaker to an audience of just 6 and 7 and 8-figure business owners, people that are doing incredible things, people that have life-changing businesses, people that are making incredible amounts of money, and people that are reaching a lot of people. And this call was supposed to go for, I think, maybe about 30 to 45 minutes. We ended up going on for 2 hours. And as part of that, I got to answer a lot of questions for people that already have existing businesses. I got to answer questions for people that are in business and maybe they're struggling with one component of their business. I got to kind of interact with people that are doing some big things in business. And one of those individuals was a good friend of mine, someone that I've known for a few years and haven't spoken to in a few years. And his name is Suresh. He's our guest today, and I'm going to bring him on in just a couple of moments. But, one of the things that, as I'm on this call yesterday and I'm looking at these individuals, some of them that are at different levels of success with their business, I'm thinking about the fact that they all had to start at the same place. Like, regardless of where they are right now, they all started at the same place. And that's where you guys are at right now. You're starting at the same exact place. Some of you are still trying to figure it out. Some of you have seen success. Some of you guys are at a point where you're wondering if this is the right route. Some of you know for certain that this is the right route. And I think our guest today is going to help clarify a lot of things because he's someone who started many businesses, someone that's spoken to lots of entrepreneurs before, and he knows how to get the message across, right? And he's got a great personality on top of that. So we're going to jump into that. Before I do, so yesterday we also had our second traffic and marketing mastery call. So we did this call yesterday, and this was another call that went on for a long time. So for those of you that are in the traffic and marketing mastery program, let me know if you were on that call. So we started that call yesterday at 7 p.m. It ended like at 9:55 p.m. So it went almost 3 hours long. Peggy was on there. That's right, Peggy, I saw you there. But it was a great call. It was a very informative call. We talked about Facebook advertising. How do you get properly set up with Facebook and Instagram advertising? I went through the platform, kind of educated you on the different components of a platform, some of the things that you should be doing, some of the things that you should not be doing. Wendy Bolton, that's right. Wendy was there as well. All right. Leanne says, good morning. My apologies off camera. Sick as a dog with the flu. The flu is never good. So I hope you feel better. Definitely. Leanne, you missed it. The recording will be in the members area, Leanne, as well. So for those of you who are part of the Traffic and Marketing Mastery program, go in and watch the recording. But don't do so before watching week 1, because week 1, we kind of dovetailed into week 2. So everything will make more sense if you watch week 1 first, all right? Yeah, Wendy says, I couldn't believe it was almost 10 a.m. It went really fast. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so we're going to jump into this. So I think I see another friend of mine, Vernon. Is that Vernon Foster? It just says Vernon. I can't tell if that's Vernon Foster as well. We need to get you on as a guest as well, Vernon. So I need to look at your schedule because I know that you're someone who's doing a lot of big things as well. So I would love to share your knowledge with this audience here. I think they could benefit from it. Caroline, I see where you're on as well. How's your day?
Good day.
Caroline, her name still said Ty Cohen there for a moment, so I thought I had a doppelganger. I thought I had a twin there. I'm going to bring you on, Caroline. Let me add your pin. All right. So live from Dubai. How's Dubai treating you now?
Dubai is great. Yeah, I think it's about 42 degrees out there. So it's just come in from a trip.
Yeah.
Just ran back into the hotel room. Yeah, really great. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. So yeah, we're having a great time.
So live from
Dubai
by way of the UK. So there you go.
Yeah, that's right. So hi, Fresh.
So 40 degrees. What do you guys have planned today? Like, what are you doing today?
We've been out on a trip. We've been on a boat, and then we're going to come back and then after this, we're going to go for a swim. We're going to go in the sea, and then head out, get ready, go for dinner. And then we need to get our trips booked up as well for next week. So we've got lots of things we need to do. We haven't got round to getting them organized and getting everything sorted. So we're going to go back to the water park, which you probably went to, Ty, at the Atlantis, because Indy wants to go back there. And I've promised that I'm going to go on more rides this time. So I got really scared last time.
You only get one life, Caroline. You only get one life.
I know. You know, when you put in a tube and you drop down from the sky to the ground in however many seconds, it's like, okay, I can do this. That's actually a good mindset test over mind, over body and brain. So we need to do all of that. We want to go on this yacht trip, you know, and
in a marina. So you're starting off at the marina? Is it? I've got a contact over there. I'm gonna see if I can find it still, because we went on a great yacht trip out there. It was incredible. We did breakfast and everything else, and then we went back and doubled down on it and did dinner on one as well, which was
nice. Yeah, they do lots of. Oh yeah, let me know if you remember the details. So yeah, lots of different things we want to get done that we did all that before, but some other stuff that we didn't do before, like going to the temple, the mosque and in Abu Dhabi that we haven't been to before. So and there's Yas Island. I don't know if you say Yas or Ya Island, which is where the big water park, aquarium and everything is there in Abu Dhabi. So it's another emirate. So sort of like another country, I guess. It's not, but yeah, another emirate.
The mosque is beautiful. Like
you went there, didn't you?
It is amazing. It's huge and it's all white, and it is just really, I was fascinated by it. I used to visit many mosques when I was a kid, but never any of I think I told you about I used to be Muslim at one point.
Oh yes.
And so I used to go to a lot of mosques in New York, but I've never seen anything of this grand stature that's out there.
Yeah,
you also have to do incredible. The floating restaurant.
And the
floating restaurant. So it's a restaurant that's, I think it's like 50 or 60 stories in the air, and you're just literally suspended.
Oh yes, we saw that. And then you've got skydiving and all sorts of things. So yeah, we also need to book some water sports and different things like that. So much to do, and we've had a few lazy days actually, so we need to now ramp it up a little bit. We've got a week left, so go off and do lots of different things. But yeah, it's great out here. I can understand why you had a period of being a Muslim, because it's when you hear the call to prayer, it's the most relaxing thing. Yeah, I can understand that. It's a great religion. So
yeah, I went through it all. I went from being Muslim to being atheist to being agnostic. I went from being Christian to Muslim to being atheist to agnostic. So yeah, so
Buddhist.
Never Buddhist. I admire Buddhists, right? And so that's a whole nother story. So as I was going for my nursing license, we ended up studying all of the different religions, and you just learn that there's so many similarities. There's more similarities than there are differences when it comes to religion and things like that. Just like us, right? There's more similarities than there are differences. So I think that
absolutely. So,
all right, so let's jump. Oh, go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's another conversation for another day, actually. I was going to say some other stuff about that. But yeah, really, really interesting. And it's just, I just find it fascinating. The kids obviously are half Sikh. So we're used to Sikhism, but we're also used to Islam, because some of the family, there are Muslims also in the family. So we know quite a lot about that. And there's so many similarities, even though when you look at the history between India and Pakistan, it's not so pretty at one point, but there's so many similarities across those religions. Sure. So yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
I am very fascinated by cultures. I'm very fascinated by religion. I respect everyone's opinions and everything else. I just love speaking to people from different cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds and religions, and because you can just learn so much. Like if you listen to someone with an open heart, you can learn so much about not that person, but just about the world, and then about yourself too, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And actually, a quick story. The kids were, I'm not sure what they were doing. I think they were all like getting ready. Oh yeah, I realized that I needed to go down to reception to do something last night. So I left the room, and I'm not normally one of these people that sort of carry my phone and look at my phone when I'm walking. I knew that there was an email I needed to open from my writer. She needed just to send something through for me, just to check something quickly. So I opened it on the way. I was sort of walking towards the lift, and this guy, native chap, came out and said to me, you shouldn't do the whole walking on your phone thing. And I said, don't tell anyone, don't tell my children. Right. So I always tell them off for doing this. And he was in his full gear, and he got in the lift, and he said, but sometimes you've just got to do it right when you've got something coming in from business. I said, absolutely. And he said, so what do you do? And I told him what I did. And he said, I've just published my first book on financial. He said, I'm a multi-millionaire, and I've just published my first book on what it took. It's like a financial management book. And I said, oh my goodness, did you get a publisher? And he said, oh yeah, I've got a publisher, and the ebook's out, but I've got to wait like 2 years for a paperback. And I said, you could have published it yourself, and then you could still get your paperback. And we had this conversation, and you never know. That's just some random stranger in a different country that's actually a businessman, but he's publishing as well, and I'm so excited about this one book that I've got out there now. And we had a conversation about that, and it was so easy not to have a conversation with him,
so easy not to, because of how it initially started.
Easy not to. Yeah. And it was only because I was sort of walking on my phone, and he sort of said, they say you shouldn't do that when you're walking, because that's it, because he said you look lost, because I'd just gone past the lift because I was looking for this email. And it's just fascinating. And I said to the kids, it's fascinating how out of everything he could possibly do, he's published a book. It's sort of like that whole synchronicity thing about talking to the right person. He said a few things in the lift that got me really thinking, and so that's just fantastic. And I'd actually been sort of visualizing different things during the day when I was sitting by the pool, and I was like thinking, what does it take for some of these people to become mega rich? What are they doing? I was thinking like that, and then you meet someone like that in the lift randomly in the hotel. So yeah,
not so random though, randomly, but not so random, right? The synchronicity in that. And I was just thinking about that. It's like, look, if we're open, sometimes we get exactly like what we're expecting and what we're looking for. So if you go out there with this expectation of you're going to meet the right person, the right individuals, you get the right information, and you're open to it, and you're not judgmental based off of maybe the situation or maybe how the person looks, right? Because some of the richest people don't look rich. By the way, speaking of rich, did I just see you with a Louis Vuitton watch on? Is that what? No,
it's the Versace watch.
No, the other side. What was the thing on?
Oh, that's the Versace bracelet.
I thought I saw that when you went up like that, so he probably saw the Versace bracelet. He's like, I need to strike up a conversation with her, right? But
I was in a dress, my legs were showing. I was in a short dress with flat,
That was it. Maybe it was the legs showing.
But it wasn't, in other words, I wasn't dressed like a native woman would be here, but he didn't have a problem with it. He was just like chatting away. He didn't even, so that was just interesting on the back of what we're talking about on Monday as well, and what it's like for women out here. We went to the Emirates Mall yesterday, because Anisha needs a nails doing, so all her nails came off, and all her gels and everything came off her nails randomly.
Not something that guys have to deal with.
Just so traumatic,
Right.
So we went yesterday there, and women, lots of women, native women as well, they're just like shorts, t-shirts, like you were saying about when you were traveling in Dubai. It's very, very open here now, compared to a few years ago. So yeah,
surprisingly, I was surprised at how open.
Yeah,
because my wife wears what she wants to wear, and no one's going to tell her. And I was like, okay, I want to see how this goes, and no one said anything. I was really surprised. I mean, she's properly dressed, but she does what the hell she wants to do, right, with it. So that's it. So Barb, was it the Marvin Palmer? Barb, I'm curious, was it the legs or was it the Versace band that she had on that caused this guy to stop?
What, the little white pin legs?
Right.
So white, my legs.
All right, so let's jump into today's guest here. So I think that I'm actually streaming to YouTube as well, Caroline. So I'm gonna post.
Excellent.
Here we go. So our guest today, right, is Suresh May. He's an award-winning artist, entrepreneur, and an Amazon.com #1 best-selling author that has helped people sell millions of dollars worth of products and services online. He's the creator of the Artwork app, and it's spelled ARTTWORK.com. I'll put that into the chat box as well. You guys should check it out. This thing is fascinating. Where he makes it easy for visual artists to sell art to collectors around the planet, across the globe. Artists can sign up and sell within minutes, and collectors can invest in art they love with one click. So he runs a software company from wireless locations worldwide. He's also a global traveler like you, Caroline. And he loves painting, drawing, reading, exercising, and discussing world-changing ideas with brilliant people. So with that said, I want to bring on the one and only Suresh May. Suresh, let me come in and pin you. I see you're already unmuted. So artwork.com, thank you for posting it. I see you posted it in there. So man, the first question I want to ask you is, how does it feel to have this business? And I want to introduce you to Caroline, my co-host, Caroline Trainer. Caroline, meet Suresh. I'm getting better at introductions. My wife says sometimes I can meet somebody. And she'll be standing there for like 30 minutes before I even make an introduction. So I'm getting better. You guys got to pray for me on this. But
nice to meet you.
So both of you guys are like running digital businesses right now. Caroline, you with your digital publishing business. Suresh, you with your digital software business, which gives you the freedom and the options. Our mission here is always to achieve freedom and options, whatever that looks like. It gives you the freedom and options to be able to do something like this, to be on the call at 8 o'clock in the morning, because you're in Atlanta, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. And instead of having to possibly go to a job where someone else is dictating what happens with your time. Before we jump into the company, before we talk about starting a business from scratch, how does it feel to have the freedom? And is it something that you still think about? Because I know you've been doing this for a minute. Or do you take it for granted, like a lot of us who've been doing it for a while?
Nah, man. First, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet everybody. I see we got a big crowd. And I'm hope to bring value to y'all. Ask me anything that you like. Looking forward to having a great call today. So first, no, I don't take it for granted at all, man, because I'm not really sure about who's all on the call. But it just kind of level set it with my story and background. I was born in Alabama, in poverty. So my people are from Childersburg, Alabama. You probably never heard of it. My dad still lives in a really small town called Sylacauga, Alabama. They probably got a couple of traffic lights. And so, you start talking about freedom and opportunities. It's not something that I grew up with. And so to be able to travel this life journey and to really get into the information business and combine that with the software business, you can really do some miraculous things for your life when you start talking about freedom and leverage and being able to own your own time. So it's something that, man, I think is priceless because, even being an adult, I have 2 children. I'm still friends with a lot of people that work jobs and they can't do things for themselves or with their children because they got to go, clock in somewhere. And so it's not something that I take for granted at all.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Perfect. Man, tell us a little bit about, so you talk about growing up in Alabama. There's a few people in the chat box who actually, George says, I know both places.
I'm saying this is crazy to me. Most people are like, what is he talking about? George said, I know both. He said he lived not far for almost 20 years. That's incredible.
Yeah, I've never heard of either one. So that tells you how well-traveled I am to Alabama, man. But,
you could be well-traveled and never hear Childersburg and Sylacauga, for the record.
And Barb said she lived in, is it Decatur, Alabama?
Decatur, yeah.
Decatur, yeah. So there's a Decatur, Alabama, and a Decatur, Georgia, huh? Look at that.
I didn't know that.
I just learned something new there. So,
and Huntsville, Brian.
So look, you didn't have the silver spoon, I take it, right? Unless you had one and it was like,
we had plastic spoons.
What's that?
Yeah, plastic spoons.
You had the plastic spoons. So like what kickstarted? Tell us a little bit about you, man, and your initial journey. Like what gave you the idea, and that gave you the belief, more importantly, that you could actually do something that was different than what you had seen in your environment around you?
Yeah, man, that's a beautiful question. So I always tell people what happened for me first was getting clear on what I did not want to do before I knew what I wanted to do. And so growing up, grew up with a single mom. Growing up, everybody would tell me, go to school, get a degree, get a job kind of thing. And so I heard that and it seemed like sound advice. But when I analyzed people's outcomes, it was a hard sell for me, right? So people were living for the weekend. They hated when Monday rolled around, and they never really had enough money to do the things they wanted to do. And so I'm like, y'all are selling me this path, but y'all hate it. And so the first thing I got clear on was, nah, I don't think I want to do this. And so the second thing, I played basketball. So I played basketball in high school in Division I up in Chicago. And my mom, because she had to work, 2-3 jobs at times to take care of my sister and I also realized that I didn't really want to work a job that took me away from being able to spend time with my family, or any event I had kids, I couldn't go and show up for them at the things that they were doing. And so that kind of eliminated jobs as well. And so when I was in college, I was studying art and design in college, and I ended up dropping out. Primarily because I didn't see the value in getting a degree, because the goal was never to work for someone. And so I dropped out, got into book publishing actually. And then that's kind of when I started my entrepreneurial journey. That was back in 2007. And so it's like been off to the races since then.
And how old were you? Because look, you said you guys are selling me on this dream of, things that you don't actually like. How old were you when you kind of discovered that, when you made that revelation? Because I think most of us, like, we get older and then we realize, like, what the heck?
I was a teenager experiencing it. Yeah, because it's like I was, just living with my mom, man. She would tell me that, and she, went to college, had a degree, but she's working 2-3 jobs. So I'm living with it every single day.
Yeah.
Not enough money, lack of resources, and you walk this path, and she's a very sharp woman. She did an incredible job taking care of my sister and I, but it was just never enough. And so I lived with it every day. And I'm just like, I don't want this to be my reality.
It just didn't happen.
That's remarkable at that age, because so many people live with that reality and they still continue with following the norm of what they're advised to do. Exactly the same. You're right. People go and get a degree, go and do this, or go off and into the world of work where you've never got enough money for the month.
Money for the end of the month. Yeah.
Yeah. And you crave Friday nights.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of dread Sunday nights often. And then you do that for sort of 30 years to have whatever 2/3 of what you didn't have enough in the first place. But the amazing thing is the fact that you had the insight to see that. Whereas for many of us, myself included, we still went on that path, even though you can see that most people were, I enjoyed lots of my jobs and there were lots of really good things about it, but you could see the majority of people in my world doing that were pretty unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess it's about not realizing there are other options.
Exactly.
Or believing in yourself to think, I don't want any of that, I'm going to go off and do something different. And you had the insight to do that at a really early age, which is phenomenal, and a good idea.
Thank you.
That's really phenomenal, really insightful. I think that now I often think about this, like why do people stay stuck in situations that don't benefit them? And I think it's just because of what you said, Caroline, and Suresh, you kind of touched on this as well. Maybe they don't realize that there are options, but I think that now with technology and the way that things are moving so fast, we're now more aware of the options that are out there, right? We see people on Instagram, we see people on YouTube, we see people on Facebook. Even though it's hard to decipher real from reality, we still know that not everyone can be faking it. Like, not everyone's faking it, right? There's got to be people that are actually doing it. What allows you to kind of, like, what do you get your inspiration for? So we're talking about artwork, right? Your new software company. How did you come up with that idea? We know that you went to school for art and design, kind of got frustrated with that, said, okay, this may not be the path, but then you still came back, you doubled back with it, and now you have the software program. How did you come up with this thing?
Well, I want to answer your inspiration idea first. So for me, it's part inspiration, but it's also kind of part just reality kicking myself in the butt, right? So I remember when I first dropped out, I wanted to get into online business and I didn't have a lot of money. I might have had, maybe $40, $50 to my name at the time. So I'm, maybe what, 20 years old, maybe back home with my mom, trying to kind of figure out what my next moves are going to be. And this is early on, man. I think WordPress may have been newer technology, but people were still building websites with Photoshop and what's the other one that they got in that suite?
Adobe.
Adobe is like the platform, but you got Photoshop, Illustrator, and then the one that you did web design with. I can't think of it right now.
Oh, I know, Front Page.
No, Dreamweaver. They got it. Oh, we got some sharp people. They know. Rashawn James, Dreamweaver. That's
so it was Dreamweaver or Front Page. Front Page was first, and then Dreamweaver came out. I was a Front Page guy.
Dreamweaver. So I remember not having enough money to hire somebody to build a website. And so for me, logically, I thought, well, okay, I got about $50. I can either, bitch and complain about not having enough money to get a site done, or I can go buy some books from Barnes & Noble and teach myself how to code. Wow. And so I went and bought the books. And I said, in the next 3 to 6 months, you either going to be complaining about not having a site done, or you're going to learn a new skill and have a site done. And so that was just it. And so I taught myself how to do it and press forward from there. And so like my first company was a supplement company, man. And I hand coded the site from scratch in Dreamweaver. And so from there, I fell in love with technology and, business and marketing. And this is like back when we used to like copy sales letters and, write them by hand and try to learn, sales psychology and things like that. And so fast forward, I ended up writing some books. I was heavy into development and coding and, even meeting you on my journey when I got into internet marketing and things like that. And so it kind of came full circle when I was getting burnt out from doing the online coaching because I felt like everyone else, to be frank. There's so many coaches and consultants online, and especially in the spaces that we run into.
You were doing it early too.
Yeah, I'm an internet OG, quietly. Like a lot of people don't know that.
You're a young looking internet OG. That's the thing.
Yeah,
so I'm like, guy's got to be like 29, and he's talking about he was sitting there handcrafting copies.
So I've been doing it 2007, man, 2006, 2007 on the internet hard. And I got inspired by Zuckerberg with Facebook. So I was still in college. That might have been like 2004, 2005. I figured if he could do it, I can too. And so I've been doing business on internet for a long time, just learning. And so, man, you start running in spaces with brilliant people like Tycoon and a lot of other men and women that we know. And there's a lot of people coaching and consulting. And I just felt like my business was a Me Too business, right? It's like, yeah, I can get clients. I know how to get customers and I can help people, but I didn't feel like I was standing out, to be frank. And so I was kind of looking for my next thing. And then I ended up I had a friend that invited me to this event. It was based on wealth and art. And so she had some artists, art collectors, and an art gallery owner in the room. And so as I was sitting in the room listening to these conversations, I was hearing like the problems from all three sides of the industry. And that inspired me to come up with a software solution to solve the problems, right? So like the artists were having issues getting collectors. The collectors were having issues valuing the work and understanding why it was worth what an artist was really asking for. And then the gallery owner, he was kind of he reminded me a story of Basquiat and how he ended up essentially launching his career. And I kind of just started to, brood around in my mind to create a solution for that. And then what really took it off to let me know what type of app I was going to create. Man, I was at a tattoo shop and I ended up running to an old classmate in the College of Art and Design of mine that I knew from school. And so we talking, he invited me to his art event, Ty. And I was like, yeah, I go. I love investing into local artists. So I go to the show. I, walk through the spaces they had. I see a piece that I wanted to buy. And so I walk up to him and I pull out my, my business credit card. And I'm like, hey, I want to buy this piece. And I'm like pushing the card into his chest, Ty. And he says, I can't take your money. People usually cash at me. And that blew my mind that he turned down my payment because he didn't have a way to process the payment. Dude, you got art all over this event and you only taking cash app. And we went for him to get my order, we had to walk into the tattoo shop, which he worked, and use their POS system to take my payment. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And that's what gave me the idea to create artwork, which was a simple solution for artists to be able to add all of their art to one application, track all of their sales, all the collecting information, and easily take payments around the world from one platform.
So one platform helps to solve problems for 3 different individuals, right? The artist, the art collector, and possibly the gallery owner as well.
Indeed. Yeah, the gallery isn't my customer, but they can get a lot of value from using it as well. Because like if you go to a gallery event or any art shows right now, typically they'll have art on the wall. They may have a price, and you kind of have to talk to the gallery owner to get the sale. But if you use artwork, we leverage QR code technology. You can scan it. It'll pop up right on your phone to bring you to the page, and you can buy the art with the click of a button. And now as a collector, you can track the value of your art collection right there on the spot.
Gotcha. And this is fascinating here. How many people think that this is really fascinating? Like he came up, and this is how some of the best businesses are built, right? You listen to the audience, you listen to the problems that they have, and now you say, well, how can I provide a solution? Because typically the individual that's closest to it, they're not thinking about the solution, they're stuck on the problem. So if you can go around and you can just listen to the problems and say, okay, well, how can I create this solution? Or you can do that for yourself. What's the problem that you're having right now? And you can create that solution and then provide that as a service to other individuals. I think that, look, how did you come in? Because you're not a software developer, right? I know that you're a smart guy. You're able to go in and code websites and things like that. So you're not in here coding your app. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it's been a process, man. And let's see, I'll try to shorten the story a bit. So no, I am not a developer by trade, but I did see the value in brushing up my skills on development so that I can have intelligent conversations with developers.
Yeah.
Because what typically happens when you get into the software game is most people who have an idea, they think, okay, I have this idea in my head and I want to just be able to tell a developer, and I hope, wish, and pray that they could just develop it.
Yeah.
Right. And it doesn't work like that because the developers don't know, hey, if we push this button, what's the next action that needs to take? If we do this thing, where are we going to send the people? And so you really have to map that out and get crystal clear on what happens if this or that happens. And a lot of people underestimate that. And so my journey, I built my app on Bubble, which is a no-code solution. What is like low code, I like to say, because you definitely need and have to leverage code. But it makes it a lot simpler than developing an application from scratch. But I ended up hiring a Bubble coach to teach me how to kind of code and use Bubble. So I sharpened my skills first. And then that just allowed me to get really comfortable with the program, because you also meet a lot of software development owners who they outsource the development, which I think you should, or get a team to do it, but they don't even know how to use their applications.
Yeah.
Like they're completely dependent on the team to build things, create things, or just think through, just the complexities of having an application. So I hired someone first, and then I went through a couple of teams. That's a different story for another money morning. And then I finally found a team that does an excellent job of development, keeping track of the sprints, and execute for the price that you want, and also the timelines that you set. And so it's been a journey, man, but I would highly recommend anyone that wants to get into the software game to kind of brush up and teach yourself about the technology that you're going to be using to run your business every single day. At a minimum, so if that's something that you want to do, you can do it quickly, but also just so you can have smart conversations with developers and understand like what we all building.
You said a couple of things, man, that I kind of want to go back on. Because look, we're talking about software development here, but this applies to almost any business. And one of the things that you said, Suresh, is I found out about Bubble, which is no code or low code.
Mhm.
And then, which I think is brilliant, you said, let me go hire a coach that already fully understands it, that then now give me like the cheat code, right? That can help me to understand it even more so that I don't have. So he went in, he has put in the hours, he put in the time. He's basically able to distill all of the information over to you. And you said, hey, teach me the basics of what I need to know, or maybe not, the not so basic. I think that was brilliant right there, being able to do that, because most people would go in and try to break their brains, rack their heads, trying to figure it out on their own. Right? How did you come up with that? Was that just something that just happened to be, or?
So part two ways. Part playing basketball, right? It's very obvious to me. I've had coaches for most of my life, and I see the value in having someone give you the detail that you need to succeed quickly. And then also, I had been a coach, right? I helped people in the coaching space. A part of like what I was doing when I met you, when we first became friends. And so I knew immediately I didn't have no clue what I was doing on Bubble. And so there's this young man out of California. He was selling hour and 2 hour blocks of his time, man, and I was buying it up. And so we were having calls like, man, every day for months. And he would just show me, and we were like, because I first started it when he was coaching me, I was I was thinking I was going to build a lot of the app myself. But even he had some knowledge gaps, and I obviously did. But that was an incredible exercise for me to learn the platform and how to code and how to think about Bubble and how to leverage it and how to use it. And then once I kind of hit a wall, and also just the opportunity cost of trying to figure it out on my own was way too high. I was like, man, let me hire like some professionals to do this and pay a premium.
Yeah, that was smart. Understanding the opportunity cost. So we have a mutual friend, Marqual Russell, right? Who Marqual's actually been our guest on the show as well. So when I was first starting out with a set of new coaching programs, because Marqual is a coach to the coaches, I said, look, man, I want to do things a little bit differently. He had a coaching program. I said, I don't want to go through your coaching program. I just don't have the time to go through it. No disrespect to you or anything. Can I pay you $10,000? We get on the call. I just need like 60 minutes of your time. Give you $10,000. I got the questions that I have. I want to ask you these questions. Me being able to take that shortcut was worth so much more than the $10,000 that I paid him. And it allowed me to recoup that back in a faster period of time. Right. So I think that if people who are here and you're starting a business or you're trying to do anything, right, maybe it's being better at your relationship, and you see someone, maybe Suresh is better at it, or maybe Caroline is better at it. They know something, right? Hey, can you coach me on how you do this thing so well? I'm terrible at it. I don't understand it. I need a shortcut, right? Caroline is one of our community coaches. So she's brilliant. She has an extreme level of knowledge. So she can take someone like a Barb who's here, or I'm going to pick on you again, Marvin, since I see you here in my frame of view. She could take Marvin and say, look, this is what I've done to get my Kindle books, to get my digital publishing business to where it is right now. And now they have a shortcut, right? So can you kind of talk about the importance of being a coach? And Caroline, I'd love to hear your thought on this too, because both of you guys have been coaches, are coaches. Like the importance of having a coach in your life so that you don't waste the time, you don't make the mistakes.
Yeah. Well, two things. Well, I'll answer that in a second, but I was just about to pick up on what Suresh said, like you did, about the first thing that I just came out really prominently when you were talking was when you said about, I hired a Bubble coach. Because I just thought, oh yeah, because when you get into something like that and you're learning, it will be so easy then. I bet it's so complex that it'd be so easy to just hit a wall and then, either make a load of mistakes and spend longer learning, making financial mistakes as we do when we don't know what we're doing, and then, or just giving up. Not that I can ever imagine you giving up at anything that any hurdles. You're not that sort of person. It's pretty obvious to us. But I thought that was so clever. You immediately said that, this is what I want to do. So what's the most sensible thing? Sort of leveraging, you invest now, but then you become an expert and you hire out the right people for it. And when we were, and I was immediately thinking about Kindle publishing. Gosh, you know, if I'd have had a coach when I started, it would have been it would have been quicker, different. Because I remember on one of our live events, a couple of live events ago, I think it was when we were doing some promotions around our mentorship program, where people they have this program that we call the Fast Pass program. You're probably familiar with Ty's programs, Suresh, but people then can sometimes get mentoring on top of that, and they can, but some people take us up on that. And when we were doing a bit of a launch on it at a live event, we had a bit of an off-the-cuff conversation in the coaching zone at our live event. It was me and some of the other coaches that were doing really well. And we said, oh, gosh, you know, can you imagine if we'd have actually had imagine me coached by somebody that had already done well before us. And they said, what would that mean to you? And one of our coaches, Sue White, said, oh, you know, so much time. I'd have done things differently. And Brian Topshire, one of our other coaches, said something like that. And I said, oh, for me, I would have saved 6 months and about 15K, probably, in mistakes. Because even though I had the program, I wish I'd had someone to say, don't do that. You know, just do what they're telling you to do in the program. Ty has put this system together and he knows best. And I talk to people every day, not every day, but often, and I do the training, and people are doing the sort of things that I did. Now, I think everyone needs to go off and make their own mistakes to a large extent in business. But I think that it's one of those things, if you've got someone to actually say, look, you know, let's look at this problem and come up with a solution together. What's the quickest way? What's the, you know, might be sometimes the most cost-effective way of doing something. And, you know, why are you publishing your first series and doing 2 books when we sort of teach 6? You know, sort of conversation can save you so much along down the way. I mean, I was making so many mistakes because I was sort of on my own. And some of that's a good thing now because I can help other people not do the same thing, you know. But that was one of the things that really, really struck me when you said that. I thought, yeah, that's exactly how you do it.
I thought so too. I thought it was brilliant. I'm like, oh my God, the guy said he went in and there was this platform and I hired a coach to teach me bubble. So, but look, brilliant people. One of the things, and sorry to cut you off, Suresh, I'm gonna cut you off for a second though. But one of the things that brilliant people, like we were on this call with Onyx Singal yesterday, right? And his team. And I've always noticed that some of the most successful individuals have no problems with asking questions. Even if it may seem like it's a basic question, even if it may come off as like, dude, you're this successful and you're asking this basic of a question, they have no problem with how it may make them look. So Suresh, back to you there.
Nah, yeah. So I was going to kind of touch on just the power of coaching in every aspect of your life, right? So I also had the wisdom and experience of playing basketball, and I'm a huge basketball fan. And so I played at a high level with a bunch of professionals. A lot of my teammates and guys I played against played pro in the NBA or overseas. And when I look back on my journey, I know a couple of things. I worked harder than just about everybody I had the opportunity to be in the gym with, because you get to see guys' work ethic when you're in the weight room. You see what they're doing when they're on the court, off the court. And I saw that piece, but the way they taught the game back then, they didn't teach us everything the way they do now. Mm-hmm. And if any of y'all played basketball when you were younger, so I got out of high school 2002, they used to break you up. All right, post guys, if you were a certain height, this is your position for life. This is what we're teaching. If you were a smaller guy, they're going to teach you how to be a guard kind of thing. Now, though, they teach the kids everything. Like I think about this young man, Victor Wembanyama, who's coming to the NBA. He's like 7 feet, man. He does everything. Like this dude is crazy.
I was just reading up on him yesterday.
Oh my goodness, he does everything well. And it's like back when I played, they didn't teach us how to do all of the things that he does, right? And so like I know if I had the teaching and the coaching, I know I could have went to the league just off of my work ethic, because everything else is just somebody can teach you how to do it, right? And you put in the time, you can get good at it. And so like contrast now I'm a coach. I teach some kids on the weekend in basketball. And so you see how when I was younger, I didn't have a coach. We didn't have the money to afford it. Man, I'm working hard, but you don't realize that the thing at the time without a coach, man, you're working on the wrong things or you're doing things incorrectly because you don't have anybody correcting you and showing you how to do it well. And so now I see the young men and young girls that I teach, and it's like, oh, wow, if they didn't have me, this is how they would be practicing. Yeah, you have the work ethic. You're getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning to meet me at the gym, but it's so many things that you got to correct to help them just succeed on their path. And so it's the same thing in business. I look at it the same way. Yeah, I could go at this on my own, but if I can get an expert that has went through this process and they can correct my actions so that I can get the results a lot quicker, it just makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. Nas has a verse, the rapper Nas, he says, look, he says, working hard, getting nowhere fast, a whole years unpassed. Right. And he talked about learning from others. And he wasn't specifically talking about coaches, right? But again, in that verse, he could be talking about coaches because something that you said is, look, you could be working super hard. How many people have ever seen this? Like you're frustrated because you know that you have a work ethic and it doesn't seem like you're getting anywhere. It's because you're working hard at the wrong things. You're pumping the well the hard way and you're frustrated because you see other people that are passing by, but it's maybe the order that you're doing things. Or maybe you're working hard on things that aren't going to bring in an 80%, right? Maybe it's I'm always alluding to the Pareto's principle, right? The 20% that bring in 80%. Maybe you're working on the things that are not going to bring in that 80%. You're working on the things that are going to be in that are going to bring in a 1% over 2%, right? So you may not be prioritizing things correctly. Suresh, so you have the app. You get the idea first. You have this epiphany, right? You're saying, okay, well, wow, these artists, they need a way to be able to better serve the community. They need a way to be able to better serve themselves as well, to be able to take payment, right? Because that's self-serving also. You start working with software developers. So I've developed a couple of apps. I had a couple of app companies. One was called Apptastic and another one called Translucent back in the day. Dealing with software developers is a whole nother story because they think in a totally different way than you think. And I'm sorry if anyone's a software developer here on this call, but one of the hardest things that I experienced was being able to articulate the message, and we would storyboard things out and everything else, right? You would frame it out, but they're going to do things in the way that they want to. So it may function right, but it may look ugly as hell, right? Like the UI, the user interface, right? So now you have someone else that comes in. Did you have a totally different team that came in and handled like the user interface? Then you had handled the back end. So that's the first question. Second question is, where did you find your software developers? Third question, I'm just going to load you up, is where are they based out of? Because our best developers were out of Romania.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question one, so with me being an artist myself, and going to school, art and design, I've always been an artist. The UI was the first thing that I covered. So I had a deep involvement on the design because that's my skill set. The part that I did not know how to do, and I hired this Indian brother to help me out with it, and we used Figma to kind of create some like kind of our design template and like the colors.
Like mock-ups.
Yeah, like our design mock-ups. We used Figma for that. And so we didn't even, that first version that we created didn't end up being the final version, but going through the process of thinking through the design, what this may look like, that was very powerful and helpful and educational for me as well. And so I went into it with design first, right? And then the other thing too, as we kind of even talk about, internet marketing, man, I spend so much time looking at websites, looking at apps, using apps. We buy so many software tools. So also while I'm using these things I'm looking at it two different ways. I'm a customer to these tools, but also because I have a design background and I think visually, I'm also looking at where I can see that they can improve a lot of stuff. or well, this could be more streamlined or more beautiful. So that's constantly on my mind, right? And so when it came to my app, and then you even think like the knowledge that you gain with internet marketing, something as simple as, having call to actions above the fold versus me having to scroll, like putting all of that kind of design, that marketing thinking into the design that you see a lot of people, they just don't have the skill to think about it, especially developers, because they think in more code. I went to my developers very prepared with the UI and what that was going to look like. And so I think to your second question, with speaking to them, what I like about talking to developers, and it forced me to level up, was the level of clarity and thought and direction that I had to give for them to execute the vision. Because you can't be scatterbrained in your mind and then give the directions to a developer and expect them to execute the vision. Like my development experience, it forced me to be like very detailed. If this happens and that happens, then this happens, then that happens. And I had to go through and get very clear on that to make sure that they can do what I wanted them to do. And so I went through, I'm on my third team. The team that I have now, they are in.
Which is not unusual. So if anyone's thinking about that, that is not unusual.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah. Yep.
The hardest part in getting an app developed is getting something across the finish line. That's the hardest part. Man, that is the part. Like, if you can get something developed and working and get a user, man, be proud of yourself because you did a great job. It's hard to get it functional and live. And so my team now, they are in Moldova, which is a country next to Ukraine. And I think your last question, what was the last question, Ty?
That was the last question. So what did you find? The second question was, what platform did you find them on? Which I don't think you covered that one, but the Ukraine oh, go ahead.
I found them. So Bubble, if anyone is interested in development on Bubble has it's like a marketplace of sorts with different development teams that you can kind of reach out to and vet and go through their process. And so I kind of my first highlight of the journey, man, I hired somebody on Upwork. That was a disaster. Then I hired someone on it was another like development outsourcing app, this team from China, that they were better, but I ran into the issue that you normally run into with developing software, where somebody will give you a scope and a price of the project, but it often costs much more and takes significantly longer. And they always scope creeping you for more money, but they don't have the app done.
And so another 5,000, another 10,000. Yeah,
exactly. And so after a while, it's like, I got to stop the bleeding. Like this just because it costs, and you spending a lot of money. And I was leveraging like my internet business to pay for this stuff. And I just started to run out of money. I was like, I just can't keep doing this. And then that's when I decided to start to develop on Bubble, and ended up paying more for the Bubble team. They were the most expensive team, but they got it done on time and they did what they said they was going to do. And so I ended up burning a lot of cash on these two teams that kept scope creeping me. And I ended up paying more for the professional team, but they handled it like pros though.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Caroline, did you have anything that you wanted to add on to that?
No, just listening with fascination.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about this conversation. Yeah. Barbara just put something in. So she says, look, two of Murphy's laws, right? Everything costs more than you think. 100% true. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And then everything takes longer than you think. 100% true.
It is true. It is true. Yeah, I was busy reading the chat, and people were adding some really good stuff in there. But so true. It's sort of like the same with most projects, isn't it? When you sort of scope them out, even something from something maybe in your publishing business, or if you've got a software business, to even renovating your house or planning, sometimes even just planning what you're going to get done in the day. It's often a lot longer than you think. So yeah, I was just catching up with the chat.
I want to jump in. I see Victoria's comment. She said the hardest part of the software biz is getting users. I actually disagree. And I think it depends on your skill set. So one of the things, Ty, that I realized coming into the software game with my internet marketing and sales background, I literally wrote the book on getting customers online. I wrote a book called How to Create Lifetime Customers. So getting users, getting somebody to go to a form and give me their name, email, and phone number, that's the easy part. The hard part was getting the app built. And so what you start to see when you moving in these software spaces, man, they think completely different than we do, Ty. And so right, think about it. The way I built my app, because I have this internet marketing background, one of my like fundamental ways of building any business is if I can't get a customer first, it doesn't make sense to build a business. Whereas a lot of people,
look, it's sorry to cut you off. If I can't get a customer first, it doesn't make sense to
build a business. Like it don't make sense. A lot of people do it the other way. They come up with this idea, they come up with the name, you go get the LLC, you buy the domain, you spend all this money on the website, you go get business cards, you do all of the things except the main thing, which is getting paid.
Yeah.
Me, if I can't get a paying customer first, it don't make sense to do none of that other stuff. And so the way I built my app was I started using webinars to sell my course and app bundle in advance, way before it was done, for $1,000. And I used that cash to finance the software development. I would not have, and I do not recommend building an app first and trying to go get users. And so while I was planning out the app and developing it, I already had a customer base of artists that I'm getting their feedback. What do y'all think about this idea we thinking about building into it? How would you use this? How, you know, woo, woo. So not only did I finance it from pre-selling my course, man, I already had customers before anybody could sign up for the app, right? So getting a user was the easy part for me. And so then when you start to move in these software spaces, because now I'm in a tech accountability group and I start going to some of these tech events, man, they think completely different. They not only do they not know how to get customers, man, I suspect that the win for most of them is raising money. You will see that they celebrate raising rounds of cash, but you rarely hear them talking about getting customers or getting new users. Everybody, oh, I got this Series A, we got $1 million from such and such. Everybody clapping and celebrating. So how many users we got? Oh, we ain't got nobody yet. We still in beta, or we still in development phase. I'm trying to get something launched. And that's crazy to me.
yeah.
It's crazy to me. And so when I go in, I'm like, hey, I'm in beta. And so again, Ty, right, it's perspective. I remember I was probably like 15 months in my beta, right? So I'm going to these events and I'm thinking I'm behind, brother. I'm like, man, I got like, I think at the time I probably had about 700 some users, only 21 sales. And I say only because I'm thinking this is not a lot in 15 months. Because I have this internet marketing skill set where I know how to get paying customers relatively quickly. And so when I'm going to these events and I'm telling people this, I'm like, yeah, I'm in beta, man. I got 700 some users, 21 sales. They are blown away because
I can imagine.
For them, it's like, man, you in beta and you got customers in the first 15 months. You got sales in the first 15 months. They're like, man, people go 2, 3, 4, 5 years without getting customers and sales.
And blow through.
And blowing through somebody millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. I never understood that in any business model, getting cash from someone else to prove something that's not been proven. Like you're spending I never understood the VC and getting funded and everything else. Look, Russell Brunson is a perfect example of that, how you could build out a big business without funding from someone else, right? And, it's a model that works for some people, but I just never understood. It just seemed insane to me to get all of this money in. And guys, what questions do you have for Suresh? Because I'm getting excited now. And when I get excited, I can just keep going because he said so many things. Like one of the cool things that he said is, look, if I can't get a customer first, it makes no sense to start the business. That's why we talk about, for those of you guys who are Kindle publishers, we talk about putting out your prequels, right? We talk about building out your audience. We talk about building out your list, right? For those of you guys that are in the micro offers program, we talk about running your ads and building out your list first, right? Before you just go balls to the wall with it. So this is something that, look, Suresh learned a lot of his stuff in the IM space, the internet marketing space. And as Caroline likes to say, your skill sets are transferable. So what he's learned in the IM space, he's been able to transfer over to his software space and do it better, right? What questions if you guys have questions, I want to actually bring people on live. So raise your digital hand if you have a question for Suresh. We got maybe about 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to hold him for 5 more minutes. I know we're at the top of the hour.
Long if you need to, man. I'm good.
All right.
I'm trying to look for questions. I can't see any yet.
I see Christine.
We've got one actually. Yeah, and Mandy actually has got one there as well.
All right,
one of the things I was going to say is it's just so relevant to what we do. So if you are in the Kindle space, it like Ty said, it's the pre-course. So before you launch your first ever series, you can have hundreds of subscribers. They are your customers for that series when it comes out. Pre-orders. So wow, I've got 200 people that have pre-ordered my book, maybe more, maybe less, whatever the number is, 20 people. That when that book is released, that money's going to come in, and it's the same sort of thing. But it's also, when he said that as well, it also made me realize, I hear so many times people say, I've done my research and there isn't anything quite like this on Amazon yet,
which is a
but
red flag.
I've got a great idea,
and
I'm going to go in and I'm going to do it because it's unique. And I'm like, whoa, okay, do that later, but start with where the customers are. If you want to do that later as a passion project, it's a risk. It might work, it might not, but maybe it will. But if money is what you want to earn and you want to build, then go where the money is and go where the readers are and go where the competition is, and go where the market is. And so it's so easy for people to come straight in with their bio or something they want to do, and they just hold back, and build it first. It's the same concept that Suresh is talking about here about, getting all that pre-done before you even launch your product.
Yeah. Unique can often mean you broke. So prove the concept first. Christine.
Yes.
Christine,
Good morning, everyone.
Great morning. Good to see you. Good to see you smiling this morning.
Always. Suresh, what are your first 3 rules or steps for finding and getting customers?
3. Let's see if I have 3.
And if it's not 3, just give us your formula. Break it down.
On a roll. Let's see here. I would say rule number 1 is I would probably look for like a premium high-end customer that can spend a lot of money. Because it's much easier to get an affluent customer than it is to get a customer that has to make either or buying decisions. Yeah. That would be rule number 1. Number 2, I would then pre-sell my product or service in advance before building it, just to make sure I can get it sold. Because again, if you do it the other way, if you build first, sell second, then you run the risk of building something people don't want and potentially not getting customers. And then the third thing I'd probably say is make sure, which is kind of aligned with number 2, but just make sure that you are talking to your customers and creating solutions that really solve some of their most pressing problems. That's what I say.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question.
Yeah, that was a fantastic question, Christine. Christine always comes in with some great questions. She always comes in a clutch. Who else, before we close out, has a question? I want to bring people on. So if you want to come on, just put me in the chat box and we'll bring you on. I don't want to read off questions. I want to do something a little bit different. Well, not different, but go back to our format that we used to have before.
Did you want to come on, Mandy? I can't see you now, but I know you had a question.
See, and Suresh, this has been gold. She says she can't. All right, awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. I see a lot of questions in the chat box here.
Okay.
I see Robert, so let's bring on Robert. And Suresh, just to give you a little bit of background on Robert here. So Robert used to work very closely with the late, great Bob Proctor.
Awesome.
Hey,
Right. So Robert, good to see you. Robert's all the way in Canada.
Good morning, Suresh.
Good morning, Mr. Robert. Nice to meet you.
Technical one on your discussion about, I love your comment about find customers before you build the product. I mean, I think that's a fantastic idea. Never thought of that myself personally, but that's a wonderful idea. The question is, if you're pre-selling, how do you pre-sell when you don't have a product? And then what about delivery? Where's the gap? How did you manage that part of the process? That's what I
thank you,
want.
Robert. Yes.
Great question, Mr. Robert.
Yes.
So typically, and this may or may not blow you away, but it's really as simple as, so let's say before I go into the selling process, all I do is I'm talking to customers first to make sure that I'm like in the building with what I want to sell, right? So I may talk to 10 or more potential customers just to make sure that I'm clear
do you
on the
find
problem and that I can create a solution for them.
Where
And
do you find them?
yeah, you said, where do you find them? Online.
No, that was someone else who had their mic open.
Oh,
I just
okay.
closed them.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, but I find them online. We could talk more about that. But the selling process and like the planning the product. So first, it starts with customer research always to make sure that I'm actually kind of in the building for what people actually want to buy. And then before I make my first sales call to the first customer, I just simply create an outline of what the offering is going to be. And so that's pen to paper or, characters on a Google Doc. And once I have that, then I also have a sales script that I use. I never, ever wing sales calls. Never, ever. I have a script that outlines the benefits of this product. I have intelligent questions that I'm going to ask based on my research. And I have a 7-step sales process. But we start with rapport. We ask questions. We get them to agree on the need, sell the company. I feel the need with our feature benefit reaction sequence. Step number 6 is asking for the sale. And then step number 7 is like delivery and confirming the sale. And so I always go through that process. But before I actually build the product out, it's just outlining what the solution is going to be. And then if I'm clear on the outline, I can clearly articulate that to the potential customer so they know that I can solve their problem to get them to make the sale.
So if I may ask, you don't actually commit to giving the customer a product or a sale during that process, you because you don't have a product. So I was thinking about the delivery gap. That was what I was thinking about. But
oh yeah, so I'm just honest with them about that, right? So I think we sometimes tend to overthink this in our own businesses, but we accept it a lot in others, right? And so I tell people that I'm selling this in advance. And I think that's a very common thing, right? Whether it's you buy a movie ticket
Or the Tesla truck. Look, Tesla
truck, right?
I was talking to my daughter Summer the other day who wants a Tesla for her 16th birthday. And I'm like, okay, you got to work a little bit harder first. But it dawned on me that Tesla, who remembers that? Tesla was taking orders and I think you had to put down a $5,000 deposit, was it? Or a $10,000 deposit? This is 4 to 5 years ago. How many people have seen a Tesla truck on the road yet? And they took thousands of orders. So they pre-sold this thing and they did nothing so far, right? So, I mean, these multi-billion-dollar companies are doing it at these huge levels.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, whether you're talking about Tesla, it could be a movie ticket. I like sneakers. You buy sneakers in advance. We buy a lot of things before we actually get the product and oftentimes before it's created. So that's a very common thing to do. And I'm just always honest and transparent with the customer about that.
Yeah.
all right.
I've pre-sold courses and programs like that before as well. Especially when I first started, I would come up with an idea. I would pre-sell it. We would take the amount of money that the course was going to be sold for. And then if it didn't work, then we would always be super clear that we would refund people. We would be super clear on when it was going to be released. We would be super clear on the expectation. So yeah, it's definitely doable. And it allows you to test the market. It allows you to find out if people are going to be interested or not.
I agree. And then the other thing that it does for me is, you know, because my name and just delivering is so important to me. If I take somebody money, that also kills procrastination because now I got to deliver. So
Now you have to deliver.
now
And
you
that
gotta
was
deliver.
one of the reasons why I used to do it, because I was a super procrastinator back then. I'm like, okay, well, if I take the money and I commit, I have to put it out there. I have to get it
Got to
done.
fulfill, right? And so it's like that's the fastest way to get rid of that procrastination bug. You know, you get $5,000, $10,000, $1,000 from somebody. You know, and if you care about your brand, you know, delivering and being your word, it makes you execute and get it done. Versus again, the other way, man, sometimes you wait months and some people years before they get something out. You don't have customers and you kind of sitting on this idea. You got an idea today. We telling Ty next year the same thing. Oh man, I still got this idea, but you ain't did nothing yet. But once I get the money in advance, that kills all of that because you got to give people what you told them you're gonna give them.
Yeah, there's nothing like that getting the money and having that kick in the butt. And it could be just 2 or 3 customers. Doesn't have to be a lot of people.
Yep.
It's a great question, Robert. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome question, as a matter of fact. So I'm gonna move over to George. Right, George is joining us all the way from the UK. Right, George, what do you got? Let me there you go.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I'm it, I think. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. We got you.
Hello. Thank you, Ty. Hello, Suresh. One
What's up,
question for me.
George? I like your name, man.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you. One question was for me is obviously with everyone that's a new starter, they will make a few mistakes along the way. My question was, if you end up under delivering, what ways, what strategies do you have to mitigate that after it happens? For instance, let's say you haven't prepared properly and you haven't done your market research properly and you under delivered in a way. How do you go about to change that for your clients?
Under deliver. So that's not something that I often experience. Because I think if you, and I'm going to answer the question, but I also want to kind of think about it another way. Like if you spend the time in advance doing the market research and really talking to people and getting clear on what they want, and you deliver what they want, it's very easy to give people what they want. But in the event you do under deliver, man, it goes back to just being honest with the customers. What I've learned is you got a choice. You can be honest or you can kind of feel shame and guilt and try to avoid it. But most people in my experience, if you're honest with them and just say, hey, I'm still working on this product. We're running into some issues. Will you give me some grace here? Most people will. But I think you run into the problem where you try to avoid, you know, having those tough or difficult conversations and you start to lose credibility. And so I just try to face it head on, man. And it just, if you be transparent with people, because we all go through stuff, we all fall short in business and our personal lives, and people just get it. And so if you just tell them, hey, I'm falling short here a little bit, you know, but I promise to do my best, you know, to fulfill or get it right or to correct something. People typically would give you grace around it.
Yeah, I think people are really understanding. They really understand. That was a great question, George. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to bring on, I think we have Rashawn up in Canada next. So let me bring Rashawn on. And then we will wrap it up with Rashawn's question here. I got a graduation to go to, and I got to get there in 15 minutes. So this is going to be it. Rashawn, all the way in Canada. Rashawn, did you get a haircut recently? It looks like you got a haircut recently.
Yeah, I did. 2 days
looks
ago,
good.
me and my son got it at the same time.
Oh man, you guys are twinning over there. Looks good.
I just had a quick question for like regarding more the publishing side of things. So Suresh, you said you find the audience first and you kind of ask them and they tell you what they want. So like as a beginner, or if you have like, I've been trying it for a little while now and I'm getting back into it, I have like a dead list, so to say. How would I go about reviving that? Or as a new beginner, how do you even find the people to ask regarding like publishing and like what you would publish for them?
I got a quick question. Who's your customer? Who's your target customer?
It's it's fictional romance. Like
Nice.
that's what I publish. So my target customer is like middle-aged women to elderly women.
Yeah, so it's a couple of ways I think about it. One, and so like with that market, I don't have direct access like in my phone, right? So one thing,
Yeah,
right? If any of you all are in a market and your potential customers, you got personal relationships with them, man, don't overlook that, right? So I would leverage my personal relationships to do the research. If it's a market like that, like I don't have middle-aged women that are a bunch of middle-aged women friends, man, Facebook groups is huge. And it can be as simple as joining Facebook groups with your target customer and really just being cool about it and building relationships with people like you would with anyone else. Talking to them, establishing a rapport, and just asking them your most pressing questions. And then to incentivize people to ask the question, you also can tell them that you either going to give them the book for free, give them a chapter, just give them some reason to answer your question and help you out with the research. And then you can also use forums. Those still exist in a lot of niches, man. People are really active on some. So you can use Reddit. There's a lot of ways that you can tap into and just find your target customer. And man, you can Google it. You can Google your target customer and see where they're hanging out online. That's the most important thing. Find a market of people. If you see where they're hanging out online, get involved into the community and build relationships, man. And people, if you are genuine, you're being friendly, people will typically help.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Great question. Great answer. Man, this has been fantastic. Suresh, thank you for everything that you brought in here. Look, I said when we were texting this morning, he says, how long is the call going to be? And I said, it's going to be maybe about 30 to 45 minutes, right? So he came in, we went 10 minutes after, 17 minutes after. I'm looking at my phone now. He's been gracious enough to come in and give us the best of the best of the best. I feel like he's got even more inside of him. So maybe we could get him back for a part 2, a part 3, a part 4. If he sees how much we appreciate him. So let him know in the chat box, guys, how much we appreciate Suresh. Go into the Facebook group. Let him know how much we appreciate him. Let us know what your biggest takeaway has been from this session as well. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know what your biggest takeaway has been. If you're watching a recording, let us know what your biggest takeaway has been. Comments. If you're in the Facebook group, go in and tag Suresh as well. Suresh, I had invited you to our Facebook group earlier this morning. So when you get a chance, go in and accept that. So that way they can tag you in that as well. And man, how can people reach you? Where can they learn more about what it is that you're doing? And I'm going to post the artwork link once again. So you guys should definitely go in, even if you're not an artist, even if you're not selling art, even if you don't own an art gallery. I think it might be beneficial for you to go in and check out the app. So where can they reach?
A few people in the chat already have said that they know artist friends that this will really be great for. So they'll no doubt get in touch. So yeah, what's the best way for people to contact you?
Well, first, man, if Ty want me back, I see everyone else is enjoying it. Ty's one of the people that can get me to come back again and again. So I would be happy to come and serve, man. I'm enjoying this talk. It's nice to meet you, Carolyn. Everyone
nice to meet you.
Is talking in the chat. Just thank y'all for y'all time as well and showing up and investing into yourselves. Yeah, y'all got my last name, May. The best way to reach out to me is probably Facebook. You can send me a message on Facebook Messenger. I'll join the group. I have to check on there. I don't use Facebook. I don't have any social media apps on my phone. So please pardon if I'm a little slow in my reply. But once I see it, and if you all mention that you are from the Monday morning call, I would definitely respond and talk to you. And if you got a question, just let me know, man. I'd love to help as best as I possibly can.
All right. So they'll reach out to you and they may mention, hey, look, I'm part of a 3%ers. We call ourselves the 3%ers.
I love it.
Jim Rohn says, walk away from the 97% that are not doing what it is that you want to do, that are not where you want to be, right? That are not taking the action that you should be taking. And it's also the Monday Morning Meetup group. So guys, go in, post your biggest takeaway. Let Suresh know. I mean, somebody's so excited that they just unmuted themselves and jumped in. Look, this is the effect right here, right? So this is a beautiful thing. But I've got notes all over my desk here. that I've written down from this conversation here, right? One of the biggest ones is if I can't get a customer first, right, there's no need to even start the business. I think that saves a lot of people heartache. It saves them time. It saves them money. So Suresh, thank you for that. We'll definitely get you back. And we also have another good friend of mine, Vernon Foster, who's also on this call. Vernon is hard, really hard to get. So Suresh, maybe you can go in and put a word in. We'll get Vernon in as well, and he'll come in and share some of his knowledge. All right. So there you go. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Suresh. And so it's Suresh May on Facebook. I found you.
Yes.
I found your page.
Yeah, and go add him as a friend. Look, your network
I'll
is
do
your
that now.
net worth. Suresh and I met because we were at Ron Douglas's house, I think, right when we first met.
I think it was at man. So fun fact. I think me, you, Ron, Tommy, Jason, and Sam. I might be missing somebody. We were like the original Onyx members, and I think that's the first time we were in Atlanta at that house.
That's what it was. Yep, the original Onyx, and that now Onyx has blown up to what? There's hundreds of people in
Oh,
that.
definitely over 100 for sure.
Yeah, hundreds of people. So
So you're on Suresh J May.
Yep.
That's correct, isn't it, on Facebook?
yes, Suresh J.
Fantastic.
May. That's it. That's it right there. All right, and yes, if you guys want to watch the replay, if you missed any of it, this is one of a few interviews that we actually posted to YouTube. So you can go and you can watch it on YouTube. You could just go to kindlecashflow.com/YouTube, or you can go to tycohen.com/YouTube. And also, don't forget to sign up for Kindle Cashflow Live. So KCF Live is coming up. So you can go to kcflive.com, grab a free ticket, upgrade to Platinum or VIP so that you get the best experience possible. And we will see you again, Suresh. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. I'm going to send you a text once I get in the car and to show some appreciation again. Stay well. All
Awesome, man. Thank you. I have a wonderful day.
right, thanks, brother.
Thank you. Thanks, Suresh. Thanks, everyone. See you soon.
All right, we'll see you. Louis Vuitton, Caroline. I like it. Oh, wait, is it? It's Louis Vuitton, right? That's what it was.
No,
Which
no,
one is-
Versace.
Versace.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. You know, Tupac was a huge Versace fan. Like he used to have like the Versace shirts and the Versace jewelry and everything. So Versace's been around for a while, and it's one. I have some Versace. I actually have 2 or 3 pairs of Versace sunglasses. So it's one of the brands that
Yeah,
I
we do.
appreciate.
Yeah.
My wife was trying to get me to get a Versace bathrobe, but I'm like, all right, I think that's a little
And
too much.
they do
there.
nice towels. I haven't got them, but yeah, they do some great home stuff as well, don't they? It's gorgeous. Yeah, I love loud and bright, and yeah, I love
Yeah.
Versace.
Very
Yeah.
cool. I like it as well. All right. Stay well, Caroline. Thank you. This was a great
Thank
class.
you.
Thanks for making-
Thank you, everyone. So takeaways in the groups, like we always ask you to do, tag in Suresh once he's in the groups, and tell us what you got out of today. And thank you all for coming, and great questions as well.
Yeah, fantastic
Lots
questions.
of
Thank you for
chat.
everybody that came on live. Hey, Caroline, make sure you go in and take Indy to experience the jet car. So remember the car.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
we need to do that, Indy.
I think you'll love it.